What up, family? This part two. Um, this one on distillation, and I'm going to finish that passage on animals as signs of water. All right, here we go. Mammals. Most animals require water regularly. Grazing animals are usually never far from water, though some kinds travel thousands of miles to avoid the dry season, as they need to drink at dawn and dusk. Converging game trails often lead to water. Follow them downhill. Carnivores can go for a long period between waterings. They get moisture from the animals on which they prey, so are not a positive indication of local water. Birds, grain eaters, such as finches and pigeons, are never far from water. They drink at dawn and dusk. When they fly straight and low, they are heading for water. When returning from water, they are loaded with it and fly from tree to tree, resting frequently. Plot their direction and water can be found. Water birds can travel long distances without stopping to feed or drink, so do not necessarily indicate water nearby. Hawks, eagles, and other birds of prey also get liquids from their victims, so cannot be taken as a sign of local water. Reptiles are not an indicator of water. They collect dew and get moisture from prey, so can go a long time without. Insects, good indicators, especially bees. They fly at most 6.5 kilometers from their nest or hives, but have no regular watering times. Ants are dependent upon water. A column of ants marching up a tree is going to a small reservoir of trapped water. Such reservoirs are found even in arid areas. Most flies keep within 90 meters of water, especially the European mason fly with its iridescent green body. Human tracks will usually lead to a well, bore hole, or soak. It may be covered over with scrub or rocks to reduce evaporation. Replace the cover. Alright, so now I'm going to go to distillation and solar still. Dig a hole in the ground approximately 90 centimeters across and 45 centimeters deep. Place a collecting can in the center, then cover the hole with a sheet of plastic formed into a cone. The sun's heat raises the temperature of the air and soil below, and vapor is produced. As the air becomes saturated, water condenses on the underside of the plastic, running down into the container. This is especially effective in desert regions and elsewhere when it is hot during the day and cold at night. The plastic cools more quickly than the air, causing heavy condensation. This kind of steel should collect at least 570 milliliters over a 24-hour period. The steel may also double as a trap. Insects and small snakes are attracted by the plastic. They may slide down into the cone or wriggle underneath it and drop into the hole, and then cannot climb out. A solar steel can be used to distill pure water from poisonous or contaminated liquids. Roughen underside of sheet with a stone to ensure droplets run down it. Use stones or weights to secure edges and keep cone shape fits can so that trapped creatures cannot tip it over. Alright, and I'm gonna show you the illustration of the solar steel. So that's the plastic that's over it, so it can drop, into the pan. And this little pot, that's for use a siphon to a lower level to draw off water without disturbing the steel. But I'm gonna move on. Distillation kits are part of the equipment of life rafts, but they can be improvised. To distill liquid, you need to make something to do the job of a laboratory retort. Pass a tube into the top of a water-filled covered container. Place over a fire and the other end into a sealed collecting tin, which preferably is set inside another container, providing a jacket of cold water to cool the vapor as it passes out of the tube. You can improvise the equipment from any tubing, pack frames, for instance, to avoid wasting water vapor. Seal around the joints with mud or wet sand. An easier method is a variation on the desert still. It takes a little longer for the water to condense, but may be easier to set up. Take a tube from a covered vessel in which polluted salt water or even urine is set to boil. And before I even go on, it's a warning at the bottom of that page: urine and seawater. Never drink either. Never. But both can be produced drinking water if distilled. And seawater will provide you with a residue of salt. All right. Set the other end under a solar steel, a sheet of metal or bark, perhaps weighted down, will cover the vessel. Even a cone of leaf over the water pipe will help direct the steam into the tube. And I'll show you the illustration. All right, it's a water from ice and snow. Melt ice rather than snow. It produces a greater volume faster for less heat, twice as much for half the heat. If forced to heat snow, place a little in the pot and melt that first, gradually adding more to it. If you put a lot of snow into the pot, the lower level will melt and then be soaked up into the absorbent snow above it, leaving a hollow beneath which will make the pot burn. Lower layers of snow are more granular than that on the surface and will yield more water. Sea ice is salt, no good for drinking until it has aged. The more recently frozen, the saltier it will be. New sea ice is rough in contour and milky, white in color. Old ice is bluish and has rounded edges caused by weathering. Good water can be obtained from blue ice. The bluer and smoother, the better. But beware of even old ice that has been exposed to salt spray. All right, I got another chapter on plants, and that's what I'm gonna post next. All right, family, peace.